Welcome to Cryptic Chronicles, a show all about everything mysterious, unexplained, and cryptic in the world. Today on the show, we're going to have a special guest, Thomas H. Birmingham, and we're going to get into the lore behind John Dee, as well as a lot of conspiracy type stuff surrounding it. We're going to go into cults and all kinds of weird stuff, so it should be really good. And let's just hop right into it, shall we? I'm your host, Tim Hacker, and you're listening to Cryptic Chronicles.
This is the way.
This is the way.
These entities, they would congregate.
Now is the time to take risks.
Hello, listener. Today I am here with Thomas H. Birmingham, and we're going to talk about John Dee and the angels, the Enochian system, and everything just kind of mysterious about that topic. Thanks for joining me, Thomas.
Oh, no, thank you very much for having me on your show, Tim. I've been really looking forward to having this discussion with a larger audience.
Of course. So, what got you into the whole rabbit hole of John Dee?
Oh, well, that was a very storied drug experience in the middle of COVID in April of 2020. I was living over in a beach house, or an apartment over on Smith's, over in a nice beach down here in the Cayman Islands. And I had invited a couple of friends over to stay with me during COVID because I didn't want to go insane during isolation. And so we were sitting on the couch one day, and I had enjoyed a very nice cocktail about April 20th, happy 420, of homemade moonshine, a ganja wine, magic mushrooms, and a handful of MDMA tablets. And as one of my friends would like to say, we got higher than giraffe pussy.
Oh my gosh.
So, and while I was in there, I had this strange, very strange vision. And so if your viewers would like to dismiss everything I say at this point on as being drug-induced madness, you may. So during that point in time, I had this very elevated experience where an out-of-body, all right. It was a hallucination, though. I was right there. There's two other people on the couch with me the entire time. But, inner space journey. And something told me inside of me that the world was heading towards this convergent point, and that something was going on. I had to get my stuff together. And afterwards, I spent the next 6 or 7 months exercising like a lunatic. I was 300 pounds at the time. Exercising like a lunatic and reading a book a day. I lost 100 pounds in like about 3 months.
Oh my gosh, a book a day? Wow.
Yeah, a book a day. I usually like putting them in audiobook format so I could go and work out at the same time.
That's awesome.
So it was actually a little bit, yeah, it really was. I got to listen to a lot of Terence McKenna while I was doing that. He's this have you ever heard of him?
Oh yeah, fantastic. I love psychedelics and all that.
Oh, he's a genius. His college lectures are absolutely phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And he had mentioned this incident with the epic of the Winter King and Queen. Have you ever heard of this?
I have not.
Okay.
Tell me about it.
Terence McKenna is this incredible super genius who introduces magic mushrooms to the world and ends up dying of a brain tumor. But something's got to kill you. And he would do these college courses, and during his lectures, he would discuss the most arcane and esoteric information with his audience. And he mentions John Dee, and he speaks about John Dee and Edward Kelly briefly and during this lecture. And then he mentions the Epic of the King and Queen, Winter King and Queen. I was like, sounds like such an interesting thing. And I began to explore it. So in the city of Prague, once called Bohemia, under the Holy Roman Empire, I believe, this John Dee, as you know, had gone to the Holy Roman Emperor and said, "Hi, I would like to help you do these things to help stop the world from ending," and blah, blah, blah. And the Holy Roman Emperor didn't pay much attention to Dee because he was all, religiously bent. But before he ran him out of town and sent him away, before the Inquisition got him, he gave him a task. Now, when they sent him away, Dee and Kelly ended up going to the castle of one of his cousins. And you see, the emperor that was sitting on the throne at that time, he was a practicing alchemist. He was insane. He kept like a narwhal tusk, thought it belonged to a unicorn. He practiced a religion that was not Catholicism. And when he died, he demanded somebody of his religion accept his confession. His son grew up to become a psychotic serial killer. He had to put him down. All right. And he had no heir. And so he had told, prior to him dying, of course, and being on his deathbed, he had given Dee the task. He goes, listen, I have this cousin. He's a Habsburg, and as you know, the Habsburgs have that notorious chin and a history, a penchant for not just sodomy, incest, and a penchant for incest, and had become greatly inbred. And this Holy Roman Emperor that tasked Dee with this had sent him up to his cousin's place, and he had told Dee, if you help with your magic, if you help my cousin conceive, I'll give that kid my throne. And then there was a child that was born. Now, this could be the world's first in vitro fertilization baby, an IVF, or this child could be the actual result of Dee's magical and alchemical experiments upon the seed of this Holy Roman Emperor. I'm going to go with quick switch of hands here. The child that was born from that ended up being raised over by the Habsburgs in Spain, as we've seen Game of Thrones, right? And this kid was eventually sent back he was always set aside from the other Habsburgs because he wasn't cretinously, retardedly inbred. And so he was sent back to eventually go to Bohemia, and he became this young alchemist. He collected tons of topics. And when he was ascending to the throne, he married King James's daughter. Are you familiar with King James? Like the guy who did the Bible?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Loved torturing witches.
Yeah.
Really.
Everybody was a craze back then.
Yeah. Everybody's a witch until I say otherwise.
Exactly.
Really sadistic. Yeah, sadistic guy. So King James marries his daughter off to this fellow that's getting the Holy Roman Empire. And all of a sudden, the guy says, I'm going to create a modern day equivalent, a tech sector. I'm going to allow anybody to practice any religion that they want, and they can come over here to my city. And this is including a group of hermetic wizards that existed at that time. Anybody can practice any religion that they want. They can come and practice it in my city. There are already a large Jewish population here, and I'm fine with that. They're making us money. And now this is the magic baby. All right. Married King James's daughter, he says this. And all of a sudden, the Habsburgs get dispatched out from Spain. And they're all over Europe, but they sent in the Spanish Habsburgs, and they began sieging the city of Bohemia. The guy spends the rest of his life on war campaign trying to get back his throne, and his wife ends up running away to The Hague with their 2 kids. Eventually, though, good news for them, their great, the royal family that sits on the throne of England today are the descendants of that man. So,
that's very interesting.
Not saying that the legitimacy is questionable, just saying the legitimacy is questionable. All right. So, but when I started finding out about Dee and reading more about these stories and stuff like that, I ended up finding weird coincidences. Like I had this lovely person in my life, and she had this tattoo around her neck of Enochian letters in a prayer of protection. And she had told me a story about it, and I dismissed it. Turns out, years later, when I saw her again, turns out she didn't have Enochian. It was Thebian. I was mistaken. But I started reading heavily into John Dee after I stumbled onto these stories, and I started reading about them and getting deeper and deeper. Now, Dee himself, as you know, had his son Arthur, that was born in 1577 or 78.
Is that the one that is legitimate, or is that the one that's possibly Kelly's son?
No, it's very legitimate.
Okay.
He named his son that was definitely Edward Kelly's, he named Ted.
Gotcha.
Teddy and Eddie. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of sweet. They were friends up until the end. Edward Kelly totally screws Dee in the end. He ended up buying up all of his alchemical equipment. And once they got out of, they gave him a carriage ride and a whole military procession out of whatever country that they were in. And then once they got to the border, they were broke. I mean, Dee left broke. He went back to Mortlake broke.
Yep.
Some library had been raided. Everybody thought he was a witch. Broke. Nobody would talk to him, not even the queen.
Yeah, the temperature had changed in his absence.
Yeah. Do you know this? Did you ever read the Shakespearean play, The Tempest?
No.
All right. Well, do you know that William Shakespeare is actually Francis Bacon, who may actually be Queen Elizabeth's illegitimate? Well,
yeah, and Francis Bacon was like Dee's main apprentice guy who learned from him.
Yeah, now you've got it. Okay, so The Tempest, which is written by Shakespeare, is actually written as a story about John Dee. Now, if we review it was my favorite Shakespearean play in high school when I started reading it, and I was like, holy shit, the play's about these guys. So Francis Bacon wrote the Tempest about it, and Prospero in it, the wizard, is John Dee, living in virtual exile until he uses his magic to trick a king from across the sea. They blend a few stories here because supposedly he was the one who summoned the storm that sank the Spanish fleet and helped assist Drake defending the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So the Tempest that Prospero summons using his elemental spirits, it's supposed to be John Dee summoning the fleet in the storm, symbolic of his actions there, and that he induced the king of this other island, of this other place, to have their child marry his child. Convinced King James to have his daughter marry the other guy's kid over in Europe so that Dee could return to Europe, in which Dee actually did, because he had negotiated the marriage arrangements.
Oh, wow.
This was supposed to merge the kingdoms, King James and this Holy Roman Emperor. So when the guy lost his seat and he was expecting the Protestant King of England and these Germans to help back him up, and they didn't.
Nope.
Totally betrayed this king, married to King James's daughter. And King James is really pissed at John Dee for having him marry off a perfectly good daughter to that loser. Bloody historical stories.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, have you read the book John Dee's 5 Books of Mystery?
No, I haven't.
It's his spiritual. Okay. These are important ones. So when Dee died, he was told, don't tell anybody this and keep this shit secret. And he kept the really good shit secret, but not the other stuff.
Yeah, he kept a lot hidden for years and years and years.
Huh?
He kept a lot of his work hidden for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Like they found it long after he was dead, buried away.
Yeah, some of it was physically buried, yes. Some of it was hidden, but most of it was hidden in his trunk. Mm-hmm. When he died, he had like a secret compartments in a trunk so that when he moved, nobody would find his documents and stuff like that. Now, he had like a storied history of spying in for the Elizabethan court.
Oh, yeah, he's 007.
Yeah, he was 007. The 00, I've heard a lot of different people say this. The 00 actually were not zeros because those were the representative of the Queen's eyes. He referred to Queen Elizabeth as she who will not be denied.
That's why you look at the MI6 logo. It's like a pyramid with an eye at the top, kind of.
Well, that's, I think, more representative of the all-seeing eye.
I always thought it was like the double O's were the Queen's eyes. Yeah, that's true, too, as well.
Maybe. I'll go and I'll take a double look at it and see. So when his trunk was discovered, eventually it handed his trunk, Dee's trunk, after he had returned to England and after the failure of the child that he had helped create. Not sure how.
Right.
IVF baby. So I would love to get a genetic test on them just for that.
I know.
Let's go and capture this. So Dee's trunk ended up in the hands of a man named Elias Ashmole. Elias Ashmole is the first recorded Mason, talks about his initiation in the year that he did it, where he did it. And he's recorded as a Gnostic saint by the Masonic lodges.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he was the one who purchased from a City of London Tower guard John Dee's chest. They had apparently found the opening. They kept the stuff for a while. The first 7 chapters of Dee's spiritual diaries were lost because somebody used them for kindling and pie plate lining.
Good God, what a waste.
I've had some reconstructions about what was probably in those chapters, but it was the lead up to him having, was it the angel Gabriel or Uriel that came and presented him the shoe stone?
Uriel. I think it's Uriel. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
They get all confused for me too sometimes. So there you got to put a face to the name. Mm-hmm. So Dee's spiritual diaries were eventually reproduced as a true and faithful account of what happened between John Dee and some angels. And this is in the 1660s or 1670s. All right. This creates a wave across England. And everybody learns what he had done. They learn about his magic ritual to create the British Empire. Did you include that in previous discussions on your podcast, by the way?
I have.
Okay. So Dee's diaries include the rituals that he was required.
Go on, though. Say everything. That was like a year ago, so we can always do like old stuff. Just say whatever you feel like saying. My listeners will love it.
No, they're smart. They're a bunch of sharp cookies. So so Dee had where was my thought process left off over there? We're discussing Dee's spiritual diaries and the reproductions of them and the spreading of the knowledge that was within them nearly 50 years after his death by Elias Ashmole.
You were talking about how the British Empire was created through magic rituals.
Oh, yeah. So Dee had indeed been in this, Dee's rituals as passed to imparted to him by the angels to create the British Empire, or using a poorly designed ritual. That's not included in the diaries, mind you. He actually included the specifics of the ritual in his magical grimoire. Dee had a magic grimoire. And when I say this guy had a magic book, grimoire is a magic book, people. Grimoire.
What was the name of that?
His Huh?
Sorry to interrupt you. What was the name of his grimoire?
Oh, it's just he has a grimoire.
It's just John Dee's grimoire. Got it.
Yeah. You will find it on a Google search because recently, if you type in Alchemist Stone Cryptography Translation Grimoire, it'll pop up on a Google search. It was recently taken out of the private collection that it was in. That's why I didn't know it existed. And it was handed over to the hack, Dan Brown. If you hear this, Dan Brown, you're a hack. All right. And it was handed over to that hack, Dan Brown, who got a group of cryptography students and experts from around the world. It was like 50 people to break it for him. It took them 3 hours. It would have taken me about 5 minutes because it had a 42 character, like a passphrase. Mm-hmm. How many letters down from this and how many letters? 42 character passphrase. Hidden last page of the book. The first line shall be last.
So it's like kind of obvious. That's interesting.
Yeah. So the key to the grimoire was never found for 600 years because, nobody thought, just go to the last page. You probably hit it there because nobody's.
That's awesome.
My first guess. So Dee's grimoire was decoded by this group of people and handed over to this fellow. There's a very nice lady who's publishing her thesis on it right now. I had T-Dye, who was on your show last week. He was the one who I had to go and fetch me her Twitter information.
Gotcha. Is that how you pronounce his name?
I don't know how you pronounce his name, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't know. I have no idea. But he and I met through a spiritual forum. I went in there. I was like, all right, you cretins, some of you know something. I want to find out who and who knows what, and fill me in.
Yeah, TD's fascinating to talk to.
Yeah, he's a good fella. So Dee's grimoire is beautiful. It's like gold. Every page is covered in gold leaf. Gold leaf had to be hammered out by hand by sledgehammers. All right. It continued to belong to his son Arthur, who didn't die in poverty like his dad. Arthur attended Oxford, where he got a degree in medicine. Or is it Yeah, it was Oxford, where he got a degree in medicine. King James got him a job and then banished him. He didn't kill him. He wanted to, mind you. But, his dad did kind of make the British Empire and all this other stuff. But we'll just banish him to the hinterlands in Russia. So he became the doctor to the first Roman officer. All right. Now, while he was over there, the grimoire probably got its gold leaf and stuff like that. It's a beautiful document. It contains all the magical rituals, including supposedly one to make the alchemist stone. The red sand that they had manufactured. It's not a physical thing. It's very Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, actually. I sometimes jest that what had probably happened was Kelly may not have been able to break Dee's cipher. He was definitely stealing his work and everything else. Yeah, and Kelly ended up dying in that Wizard's Tower.
Trying to escape.
Prussian prince trying to escape because he couldn't produce the Philosopher's Stone he had demonstrated it to other people. And Arthur claimed it was real too.
But there's a lot of conspiracies behind just went down with that. Just why did the Holy Roman Emperor get so pissed off at him?
Because he made all these promises that he could deliver these things, and then he choked the fuck up, and I've given you millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I assure you produced for me other magical things. These people, porcelain made people rich back in the day. Porcelain. Learning how to make a porcelain plate. There's a story of a Czech count that captured an alchemist and listen, wizard, you shall make for me gold so that I can buy porcelain. And the fucking proto-scientist was like, it's easier for me to figure out how to make the porcelain for you, jerk. And so he did.
That's funny.
Yeah. So we're talking about idiots and barbarians and stuff like that. And, I can't get into the mindset.
What was his name? I think it was Philip, right? The Holy Roman Emperor.
The one that worked with Dee?
Yeah.
Or the one that was, I'm going to I don't have my access to my laptop.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. But he himself, like what you were saying, he was an occultist.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the one. And his son also became a serial killer and a whole bunch of other weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, rich people are freaking insane. When you have a lot of free time, you end up going very deep inside your own head.
Oh yeah.
Whereas a regular guy just has his mind on his work.
Mm-hmm. Very busy all the time.
Yep.
It took a lot of balls to go to the Holy Roman Emperor though and be like, "Yo, the world's going to be destroyed unless you do this."
Well, he was inspired by God. And that gives a person a lot of impetus. Some people believing that they have God on their side lash a belt of explosives to themselves and self-detonate.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, power of faith. What is it? The faith the size of a mustard seed. Anything is possible.
Yeah, it's potent stuff.
Yeah, get a dose of that. So, free faith.
Right.
Sir, this is just cocaine.
So what do you think about Medimi, the girl spirit that wasn't found in any grimoires or any scripture of the past?
Yeah, I have. I like that. That was an interesting one. Do angels have a sex? Are these things even applicable to spiritual entities? I have no clue. I thought it was an interesting manifestation and one that was past due. It's like, hey, and then we met an angel. Oh, you met an angel? Yes, she was really cute too. And she was the size of a small fairy when we first met her.
Was she an angel? Was she a spirit? Was she a demon? Was she a ghost? Who knows? But she's the one guiding us.
Yep. See, they also ran into a demon while they were doing it named Gargat. I love saying his name like that because I have it in my head that way. 6 letters, Gargat. And Gargat had given, now that you bring that up, this Nova Scotia is a place in Canada. All right. And it has a lake there named John Dee, named after John Dee, of course, the wizard that we were speaking of now. And the area was colonized by the British. It was their first New World colony because of John Dee. All right, because he and Edward Kelly, on the advice of the entity Gargat, who was pretending to be somebody else, they claim in the diary, had this guy come down to the seance. They told him where to go and that there would be he would establish a mine there and stuff like that. And so he did. And he went to the New World under their instructions. I forget his name. Don't have my notes. I'm not digging. Goes to the New World. All right. Establishes a colony in Nova Scotia, enslaves the local Indian population, uses them to do a lead mine. Lead is terribly toxic, if you didn't know. These people had never mined the earth before. And this ends up the disease and the horribleness of their conditions. These people end up running away, and eventually they go in the French territories, and they eventually create the Creole people that we know today.
Oh, wow. Does this have anything to do with Oak Island and the money pit there?
Possibly. See, that's possibly connected to it also. The Masonic lodges definitely are connected to this. That's not a mistake. The only people that have the power to obfuscate history and eliminate names like this and scour them of these people. It's very similar to a Roman technique of damnatio oblivious, all right, they would remove you from historical accounts and records. It's one of the reasons why I believe Jesus was real. It's like, I know that they did this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would destroy statues, everything.
Yeah, they would expunge it. So the obfuscation of this stuff feels like that to me.
Yeah, and they really do not want you to know about John Dee and history, like when you went in school.
Okay. Since you touched on it, I'm going all the way with this football to the touchdown.
Go for it.
So, okay. So from what I've gathered, now Dees does his diary, and his diary gets published, and his son Arthur, that I mentioned before, has gotten banished off to Russia, where he was the doctor for the first Romanov Tsar. I proposed this to the professor that did the transcriptions for the John Dee Spiritual Diaries, 1593 onward. He dismissed. He liked my thing, but he hasn't assist me. He's kind of dismissed me. I kind of scare some people with this shit. So John Dee Spiritual Diaries is written by. Let me give you his name. I owe this man his credit. He did some really good work. Dr. Stephen Skinner.
Oh, I know of Skinner.
So,
yeah.
All right. So Dee. All right. So Dee's son Arthur's over with the first Romanov Tsar. He's helped save this guy's fiancée who has been poisoned using his Western magic and science. He then makes an arranged marriage for the Tsar and fills the Tsar in on all the doomsday apocalypse shit that he's been experiencing since he was 5 fucking years old. Or 4. His dad used to use him as a scryer.
Yeah, he was a talented scryer.
Yeah, he was. So this guy who was a wizard and a scryer, who's living in exile, the last wizard in the fucking world over in Moscow, which at the time was a real shithole. All right. These people are like, fur hat. That's my crown. All right. Nothing wrong with fur hats for any Hasidic listeners. And a fence of sticks for your wall. All right. I don't even think these people had stone structures. And they were like, it was not they definitely didn't have indoor heating, plumbing, water. It's the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
All right. And yeah, they didn't have the Renaissance over there, or even the precursors of it until Peter the Great, 120 years after this.
Yeah, the Russians have always had it pretty rough.
Yeah. So so Arthur Dee goes to the Romanovs at that point in time, get joined into this game. That's one of the reasons why they bred into the British royal family. No shit.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So he returns to England, where he becomes a doctor for King Charles I, who is totally against the British Empire and a Habsburg. Do you think that Arthur Dee, son of John Dee, the man who created the British Empire, both through magical ritual and proposal of it to enter the idea into the minds of the listeners. All right. Do you think that this guy is going to let King Charles fuck up his dad's hard work and efforts?
No way.
So yeah, exactly. So Arthur Dee was not executed like almost all of King Charles's court at the end of the Cromwell's Revolution. All right. That's another good indicator that he was a spy, like his dad had been in Queen Mary's court, right? That he had repeated what repeated history because these people didn't bother to read history.
Yeah.
So so Arthur D goes and helps Cromwell and his forces by feeding them whatever information that he can. Cromwell ends up winning. So Cromwell goes and starts creating the initiative for the British Empire. They start kidnapping people in the countryside and putting them on ships and cutting down forests and sending them out to go and make colonies in the New World. It's how where I live here in the Cayman Islands was colonized, as a matter of fact. My ultimate ancestors from this place jumped a ship from one of those militia boats and during Cromwell's militarization and colonization phase.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's everybody got somewhere somehow. This is just how. So Cromwell's work, he has to finance this. He's got to finance a navy, he had to finance a war, and he had to work out a deal. Now, in John Dee's spirit, in 5 books of John Dee, the 5 books of mystery, John Dee's 5 books of mystery, be precise. Familiarity will sometimes make you juxtapose words. He had a vision of a headless body running around or something like that, which is supposed to be representative of the people of Israel running around without a capital. And it was a vision of this, anyway. So the deal struck between Cromwell was with a man named Ben Israel. I forget his proper title. Okay. Benisrael. Now, Ben Israel was essentially the highest rabbi, and he lived over in where the first stock market was located. The playground, Denmark, is Amsterdam. All right, the Dutch Indies companies, the first stock markets, all that stuff started off by Faust, was running over there, and contemporary of John Dee.
Yeah, some people try to say that John Dee was inspiration for Faust.
No. Faust came first. Faust is a real person. Came much earlier than Dee, and spoken wonderful poetry. Dun, dun.
Yeah, because Faust is like from the 1200s and stuff back then. That's way before John Dee. So people who try to say that don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. There's another misguider. It got me once. I was a fool. There was this guy who wrote a book for a quick buck called the Necronomicon and attributed it to John Dee. Yeah, don't. So the people bring that one up, and it was like, no. It fooled me for a good hard second, though. I felt like real heel.
Until you look into it for like 2 seconds.
Yeah. So by the way, I haven't completed John Dee's Spiritual Diaries from 1583 to 1608 because I'm just scared of opening it up.
Gotcha. I've only read books like of other people talking about Dee. I've actually never read any of his own stuff. So you know a little bit more about me in that category.
It's much. I have when I started doing my first personal change, I'm like, I'm not going to listen to a self-help guru. I'm going to go listen to the OGs. I'm going to listen to the Nietzsches, So that
totally
had me, So it had me go down like a rabbit hole of a bunch of different religions and stuff like that. Don't listen to one other person's summation of the religion. Go and find their core holy text and read it. Right?
Yep. No, always follow your own intuition.
Yeah. So I found out like there's a man named Manly P. Hall, and he had written during my first year of spiritual journey, when I found out about this guy's works.
The legend
himself.
I started
reading Manly P. Hall is a fucking legend. The guy's the guy's tone and everything else. He was really good at imparting things. And I wanted to do additional contributions to his work that he had done on secret societies. But I was a little upset. Like, I knew, how do I put this? Are you familiar with the Q movement? This is a segue from D. Totally
no, what is
not
that?
Exactly really.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Go on.
Yeah, QAnon got started up on the 4chan forums. There's debates over who may have done it. Some people have a heavy attribution to a guy named Michael A. Aquino, PhD, retired lieutenant colonel, United States Army Psychological Warfare Operations. Mm-hmm. This guy was like a Green Beret in Vietnam, and he was an Eagle Scout, and he was in the MK Ultra program, and He probably in San Francisco. You probably met Charles Manson. You following me?
Yeah.
Drug running, Iran Contra, child molestations, Satanism. The guy. Apparently, by the way, if you've ever played the role-playing game Vampire the Masquerade, really great intro into all the occult groups in the world. The guy who wrote that game wrote about all these secret
Are
societies.
you talking about the computer game or the literal tabletop role-playing game?
The tabletop
Gotcha.
role-playing game, first and second editions. Hardcore. The Setites are in there. Okay. They have a group of magicians who are from Vienna, all right, who are called the Tremere, which are representative of the Illuminati. The Ventru represent the city of London, which is you're all now finding out about. The Blue Bloods. All right. And that these
Blue
are
Bloods,
all actually
True Bloods.
representative of various Masonic lodges.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So the Tremere, the OTO, the Ordo Temple Orientis. Which is, again, this is all indirectly tied to D. So I had read all these role-playing games and stuff like that when I was a kid, and they have a contribution to my mind. That's who I am. So, and I spent a lot of time online. This is separate from D, but the same. And I found that the QAnon movement that was out there had been created by this kid named Fred Brennan, who was like this little gimpy penguin boy who has a terrible disease. It crippled him. His life was horrible. And he had written a paper on eugenics. And nobody wanted to listen to his very rational discussion on, a very touchy topic. And the people that picked him up were Stormfront, which is an online hate group. And Stormfront, working with Brennan and Aquino, who had done a book series called Mind Warring, created an online cult that may have recruited me when I was a little kid. I'm not sure. Had ended up influencing the United States significantly with the Q movement. So I was here in the Cayman Islands, stuck on this island, reading books on the occult and religious stuff. And that little shit, Fred Brennan, back in the day, used to talk about being a wizard all the time, that he wanted to be a wizard. So I'm pretty sure that little fucker and his other friends were into this shit. All right. So the Enochian, the magic, the weirdness. So the Q cult is indirectly connected to D through that one.
That's the first time I've ever heard that. That's interesting. I think that's pretty interesting. Like, I don't really comment too much on that kind of stuff at all, because I just don't care about politics personally. But
buddy, I had to do 400 hours of like essentially shitty podcasts from a crazy cult lady named Elizabeth Clare Prophet. She ran the Church Universal Triumphant, the nuclear bomb shelter doomsday cult. I met members of this cult in my life.
All right, you're going to have to come back on for another episode too, because we're going to have to dig deeper into this stuff.
Yeah. She wore all the shticky stuff with the rings, like Aleister Crowley, claiming that she spoke to angels. Aleister Crowley, who reinterpreted Enochian. Aleister Crowley, who ended up causing World War I, the Lusitania incident, the Zimmerman notes, who initiated a whole bunch of people by spreading certain New Age concepts, who wanted to be a herald of the apocalypse and referred to himself as the Beast. You don't get the title if you give it to yourself, by the way.
It's actually funny because his mom was the one who gave him that title.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he was such a little asshole. So he didn't give himself the title.
Well, I don't trust anybody who ends their life as a heroin addict in Morocco that's left his wife for some kid on the street named Jim.
He left a lot of wives.
He was a scumbag, closet homosexual that didn't want to go to prison for sodomy laws in England.
It depends on who. It depends on the crowd, though, because he was very open about it with the right crowd.
He was also he was a fecophiliac. No, I'm sorry, anybody that reads Marquis de Sade that's into scat, I don't think that's cool. So all these weird religious. The Thulians, by the way, they're tied to Enochian occultism, and at their highest level, some of them practiced it.
The who?
It's
the Thulians?
The Thulians. The Thulians are connected to
that's the German
the Church Universal Triumphant, the Enlightened Masters movements. There's variations of them around. Aurelians could be
connected to Theosophy as well.
Yeah. Helena Blavatsky is connected to this too. So, since we're following pedigrees backwards, if you haven't noticed this.
Oh, yeah, we are,
So
huh?
So Blavatsky Helena Blavatsky, the creator of the Theosophical Society, would never really mention Dee or any of his stuff. Okay. She, her initiations into these things came from, a Frankist who is connected to, through a lineage of their faith, a guy named Sabati Zabai. So we've jumped in our story from present day. How did I get into D? All the way back to Sabati Zabai. So Sabati Zabai, by the way, in the vampire game, there's a group called the Sabbat, who are representative of Sabati's factions. And inside of it, there's this group that have black priests that power their inner darkness, which are representative of the Jesuits. They're referred to as Lo Sombra in the game.
The Jesuits is a whole nother trip.
Yeah.
But go on.
Yeah. One of my friends became them. I'd love to became one. He was a friend of mine from drama and acting class when I was in college. I wonder where he is in life now.
Yeah, that's a crazy rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'd be interested to following that one.
Yeah.
So Arthur D. Oh, by last connection, modern day, there's a guy named Alexander Dugin. He's this Russian occultist, and he was kicked out of officer training school because he wouldn't give up his religion and Thulianism, which is this Nazi occult weird shit. Yeah. By the way. Okay. So, I've been running into a lot of this stuff recently with the school shooters. The guys wearing the Saul Niger, the Black Sun logo, and repeating variations of it. The FBI does a really good job of scrubbing the stuff from online and hiding the conversation.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. But
I know
that's
what you're talking
really
about.
upsetting for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like people hiding. When you see people hide things from a conversation, all right, it's because they don't want you to know it. Which means
the only thing keeping their power on life support is controlling the narrative.
One thing you can invest in that does not lose value is gold and silver. There is no better place to go for financial security than Goldco. Rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. Get the free 2023 Gold IRA kit Americans are using to protect their retirement savings. Get your free 2023 Gold IRA kit at goldkit.com. Goldco is a leader in the precious metals industry. From precious metals IRA to direct purchases of precious metal coins and bars, we partner with individuals seeking to diversify and safely grow their retirement portfolios. Allow Goldco to make your gold and silver investments easy, seamless, and secure. Our investment is in good hands. Chuck Norris, what? Oh, I'm recording.
$30 off weed with code PODCAST? Did someone say $30 off weed with code PODCAST? Amuse delivers over 500 high-quality cannabis products from the Bay Area brands you love at everyday low prices. You can also rest assured that everything will be up to your high standards. So what are you waiting for? Start shopping now at Amuse.com. Use promo code PODCAST to save $30 off your next order. That's AMUSE.com.
Is your brain always hungry? Do you have a mental appetite that often goes unsated? You may be suffering from hungry brain syndrome, a debilitating and sometimes life-threatening condition experienced by humans who require double, sometimes even quadruple, the amount of mental nutrition needed to sustain the general population. But now there's help. For years, our dedicated team of world-class researchers have been developing a thicker, more nutrient-dense podcast specifically for sufferers of hungry brain syndrome. And now we want to share it with you. All you have to do is search for our podcast, The Whole Rabbit, in your podcast player of choice and select from one of our delicious flavors, like Slovenian succubi, Gnosticism, or ancient Egypt. It's no wonder The Whole Rabbit is the most recommended treatment for hungry brain syndrome on the market. So what are you waiting for? Try The Whole Rabbit today. Do not listen while deep sea diving. Side effects may include eating carrots and shooting lasers.
Mm-hmm.
But go on. I don't want to get I don't want to sidetrack you.
Oh, well, it's all connected.
Yeah.
It's all connected. So it's all that's connected. So Sabati Zavai's sect, all right, he was this rabbi that near 1666 declared himself the Antichrist and said, let's all go back to Israel and let's go and retake it. All right. And he says, nothing is forbidden. You can disregard all these things. You can wear mixed fabrics. You can have bacon wrapped shrimp and incest. Okay. Like nothing's forbidden. Yeah. They would throw lights out parties and orgies and leave the door open at the fucking religious ceremonies. Yeah. I was like, bro, I could see myself hanging out with this guy. He had another guy who was probably definitely a drug dealer, Nathan of Gaza, go and declare, oh yeah, he's a prophet. Random drug dealer, everybody.
He's a
making
prophet.
A really good opium tincture. He's a prophet.
Gosh.
Got high. I saw his divinity.
Like, all right.
Yeah, an orgy. All right.
Jeez. Reminds me of Slanesh worshippers.
One of my friends growing up with this great guy named Eric Polk, my best friend. All right, we spoke constantly. He died last August.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Lifetime of alcoholism. Bottle a night finally caught up to him 5 years after he quit.
That's horrible.
His liver failed and stuff like that. But before he died, we ran a LARP for Vampire the Masquerade, and I was like, holy shit, bro. That stuff that we played as kids is all based on these real world cults. Like the ones he was talking to me on the phone when I was trying to get out of the Cayman Islands so I could go to the Philippines.
I'm impressed that you've thrown out so many names of those like secret organizations. Most people are just totally clueless.
Oh, you know what? I'm not a member of any of these groups. As a matter of fact, I might actually be their boss.
I'm just kidding.
I don't know. Huh?
I said wink, wink, because if you were, you would. That's exactly what somebody would say.
No. Like, seriously, when I was a kid, I was offered to join like the my friend's grandfather was a guy named Holly. He was Lyndon Johnson's like personal body double and bodyguard, and he was alphabet soup, decorated war hero, World War II, captured, tortured by the Japanese, Korea, Bulge, captured, tortured by the Koreans. All right, he was one place out of the Admiralty in the Navy when he retired after World War II and re-enlisted into the Army so he can get in a hand-to-hand with the little fuckers in Korea. And he had been FBI, CIA, alphabet soup, back of his car covered with Masonic symbols. We'd never get pulled over in my friend's grandfather's car. And this guy had pictures of himself delivering weapons to Castro and told us Batista same day. All right.
Wow. Now,
he tried getting us jobs inside clandestine services. We were supposed to do 2 years in the Marines and then get out on medical and then go into the CIA and stuff like that. And he says, and then ride my glory into the sunset.
That's a weird thing to say.
Right. Yeah. Well, he was involved he would take a bullet for Johnson. He was in the room. All right. For a lot of stuff. We knew about Vietnam being for oil and control the opium fields, all that weird shit. But, oil, sorry.
Yeah. Every war is a lie.
I found out later. Yeah. Exactly. It was, gee, I wonder how all these narcotics get smuggled into the United States. So at the highest levels, there's a bunch of people that are initiated into these cults. This is my best guess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That keep this shit as secret squirrel as they can from everybody else, because supposedly use of this Enochian magic may or may not accelerate the apocalypse.
That's what the story is.
Yeah. All right. And that all these guys are trying to bring about God's will on earth. All right. And as told to me by a member of one of these cults, if you were to run into the Antichrist, you are to do his will, because not to is to defy God's will. And to defy God's will is eternal damnation. So this is how they legitimize what they're doing in some fucking strange way.
Yeah, it's bizarre, because all it really comes down to is, do you follow the golden rule or do you not follow the golden rule? That really is what separates light and darkness.
I try and do unto others as I do unto myself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say
it's so simple, but that's basically it.
Yeah, but I've never done any of the big bad ones.
So if these people who are saying, oh, it's okay to do all this bad because it's for the greater good, no.
Yeah. You got it.
I mean, if you are evil, then go for it, but you're still evil even if you think you're doing good.
Yeah. So there's an excellent documentary that discusses the assassination of Kennedy and links it to these cults. All right. There's linked more specifically to organized crime and stuff like that. But we're beginning to see that at the highest levels, There are some people that have very strange religious beliefs and think that they keep very much to themselves.
Yes. That's
right.
pretty much
We're
key
not
with all of
talking-
these things.
Okay. So in the United States, so Ben Israel, back then they had to have magical legitimizations for their actions. So Ben Israel, like pushing the story of this, Ben Israel going back to 1650 something, high rabbi, highest of the high, all right, makes a deal with Cromwell. The Jewish people can return to Britain and the Isles and practice their religion. They've been banned since the Doomsday Census of 1066 and expelled from the island. And in exchange for being able to come back and practice that, the British, and helping assist in the creation of a British Empire and a banking system, that the City of London will be the center of that empire, all right, financial center, and that they will then restore the nation of Israel. The Masons specifically will restore the nation of Israel, and as well as help bring about God's temple on earth, and thus the apocalypse.
Yeah, that's a big, big, big red flag for the book of Revelation.
Oh, yeah. Now you got it. So these guys are actively working towards it. Sabati Zavai finds out about this at some point, I'm certain. And he goes and he tells everybody. You're seeing his sexual liberation thing that he was doing there, nothing is forbidden between friends. And we're all friends here, right?
That's disgusting. I don't know.
I've been to a couple of orgies.
Well, I mean, if it's between consenting adults who are mature enough to make decisions for themselves, that's, there we go. Who am I to judge?
There we go. That's the key point.
Yeah.
So, I would appreciate if somebody told me that we were going to need a safe word.
No. You could say whatever you want, man.
No, it's a joke. It's very inside joke. So
the safe word is Quran's
So Sabati hears about this global empire, end of the world shit, and he goes, "We make what we want happen. We make what we want happen now." So he goes, and understanding this, goes and he creates his Go Back to Israel movement. And he starts preaching to his followers that the Mashiach, the Messiah, will come forth when either the whole world is good or the whole world is evil. And this is written in their religious texts. And that in order for the whole world, and it's easier to make a good man bad than it is to make a bad man good. And so thus we shall endeavor to go and corrupt the world and invert the meaning of good, right and wrong, good and evil. All right. So that we can bring about the apocalypse.
That has a lot in common with some theosophical ideas as well.
Yeah. And now you're seeing how Blavatsky and them gets connected. And when you hear the Illuminati outlined thing, these are also Sabbateans. People like calling them Sabbateans. I think Zevites sounds better. Sounds cooler. Right?
That's why you see a lot of that kind of stuff in the UN and even in like modern, well, I shouldn't talk about that. That'll piss people off. But you get what I'm saying. Like you see exactly the stuff you're talking about. Yeah. In modern times.
Well, the concept of our society is that there used to be ratios. These things were, pretty precise. About 10% of the population is always gay. And now you look at, we should be discussing D, by the way.
I know, right?
And now you're seeing, now you're seeing an elevation of these rates, and a lot of people's, it could be caused by atrazine, ATRAZINE. That's a real thing. Professor Tyrone Hayes at UCLA Berkeley discovered it. And then people will know about it because turning the frogs gay because of Alex Jones, because he's a disinformation officer and he was hired to talk shit. All right. So, that thus alienating the concept that atrazine, a xenoestrogen that we've been using in our golf courses and getting into our water supply that has no half-life. This stuff stays around a long time and is a hormone that is responsible for altering the sexual traits or, the certain traits of animals. All right. And yes, higher chordates, not just frogs. The study was shown to affect higher animals as well. And they're finding out that's elevated levels of this stuff in utero is going to cause because of this active pollutant is going to cause, hello, kid monkey. Hello, monkey. So the stray cat keeps breaking into my house.
I love cats.
God, I've got 5 more in the backyard if you want one. I got 2 in the house.
I've got a couple. Sorry, go on.
I'm trying to get them to eat cheaper food. The concept, where were we? Were on Sabbatean concepts, Zevites, end of the world, the gay agenda, atrazine, infiltration in utero. Well, that stuff is connected also potentially to hormonal exposure to increased rates of autism, not just homosexuality or displays of certain physical traits.
Interesting.
Like pseudohermaphrodism. Yeah. So some folks look at this stuff as a good thing, though, because they're like, oh, well, our population's too high and we want to change certain traits. You know, when you look at humanity as an overall superorganism, you ever hear of this is related to the apocalypse, by the way, back to the John Dee stuff. You ever heard of the Utopia experiment with the rats?
Yeah, and then they all fucking kill each other and rape each other and shit.
Yeah, well, doesn't that sound like overpopulated India? Our society is reaching certain critical points.
Well, if you're thinking about the theosophical stuff, like what we were saying, it's going a lot along with like how everybody should just mesh together, become the same thing. Like the transhuman ideas, not in like the trans sense, but in the transhuman, like evolutionary beyond our human limitations at the moment to the next level of evolution.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like kind of frightening stuff. It's interesting when you look at it from a macrocosmic perspective, but when you look at it as a microcosmic perspective, it's very terrifying.
Man, dude, this new men zoom out on that lens.
Yeah. They have totally different perspectives when you zoom out as when you zoom in.
So as a whole, this apocalyptical acceleration, the Quakers rejected science and technology, saying that it was demonic, right? A demon used to be a word meaning unexplainable physical force or natural phenomenon. Lightning was a demon, wind was a demon, blah, 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 blah. And so supposedly electricity was too. Now, other higher dimensional concepts have been introduced into our society, such as the Jungian concept of the archetype. Are you familiar with that?
Absolutely. I love all that stuff.
Okay. So these higher entities, these higher dimensional entities, like Dawkins' meme, all right, the idea that wants to proliferate and evolve, all right, archetypes, semi-conscious or conscious entities, extra-dimensional entities outside of ourselves, interacting with ourselves in this 4-dimensional space that is our mind. This advanced, incredibly complex supercomputer. You think? So we could think of these as angels. In the Scientology religion, they refer to them as thetans. Other people would call them spirits. All right. Are these things real? Some people believe that they've seen shadow people, like your previous guest, T-Dye. I'm not going to say that I haven't, but I was a child when that happened.
Well, the archetypes live in all of the human collective unconscious. Like they're essentially a part of all of us. It's the same way that people used to look at the gods back in the day in ancient Greece.
What if these are like some kind of dim genetic memory?
I think that genetic memory is a real thing.
Yeah. I like that instinct, what makes a bird fly south.
Goes back to that argument of nature versus nurture as well.
Oh, it's a little both. It's a little both.
I agree.
We can change and alter our behaviors through conscious effort.
I think a lot of what we're just born with, though, comes from that genetic memory.
Yeah, Eric, that could be a thing. So the Mormon Church, how they're connected to this. So in the Mormon Church, comes over to the United States. John Smith, I believe, the founder of the church. He goes and he was the first U.S. presidential candidate to ever be assassinated. And the only, mind you, and only one. And he was assassinated by Masons in his area.
Interesting.
For speaking about their secrets. Now, when you look at the Mormon Church, all right, polygamist sex cult. By the way, if you want to have a hot coven of sexy lesbians near you, they just want to be freaks on their own inside your house, that's a good religion to start.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've heard some. I mean, all the Mormons I've ever met are like really cool people who are really nice, but I've heard so many dark stories, especially out in Utah, like in the boonies. But there's light and dark stuff with every religion. Look at Christianity. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Tons. There's always with every religion.
Yeah.
All right. Religion is did you know there's a region of your brain? Same region of your brain is responsible for faith, is also responsible for morality.
Mm-hmm.
And it's discussed by that Aquino fellow that if they lobotomize that section of your mind in an outpatient procedure using microwaves, they can just take away that pesky morality issue. Much easier to negotiate.
That's dark.
Yes. Imagine a future where they fucking take people and they do that to us as children. You know how they took our foreskins through forced circumcision and cultural manipulations?
Reminds me of the book
Imagine
The
what
Giver.
happens when they start circumcising our brains.
Yep. Hopefully it never comes to that.
Well,
it's kind of already going on though, chemically.
There's some people that are out there. We were talking about a group of people trying to deliver a world to a messianic doomsday. All right. And so we've got guys like Peter Thiel in existence, who's member of OTO. He's loved sci-fi and everything else, so it makes sense that he'd join that organization. It seems that Asimov was part of it. He's head of the Bilderberg Group, and thus he's essentially the chairman of the Illuminati. You know, he runs a company called Palantir, which is like the evil artifact from Lord of the Rings that, you know, they used to talk to the eyeball. You know, and he scans all of our conversations, including the one I'm having right now with you, and puts all of our stuff in a little file folder. And
hey, FBI agent that watches me, how are you? Hope you're having a good day. Yeah, I know what's up.
Yeah, exactly. So what they're creating master files for everybody. They'll be able to have AI sort through all of it for them instantly. All right, go and find me people like this. Go and sort these people out. Give them a hard day. All right. Give them a hard day.
Make
the
sure
computer generate some tickets for them.
Yeah.
All right. Put in a court appearance. You know, there's a million ways it could f with you in this future. All
and you
right?
know, everything that is like 10 years more advanced than what it is right now, too. So if AI is how it is right now, like to the public, it's 10 years further advanced than how we see it.
Yeah. Yeah. So in 2014, I was at the crypto conference. I was in crypto back in 2009, 2010. I'm not going to say I was some cutting edge hacker or anything like that. I got in from the Vice Guide article. Tokens were 25 cents each. Right. So that was high, I thought, because it was just a digital Pokemon. It was for drugs. And fucking then I got out of it when I found out like what else it was connected to. You know, it's being used on the Tor network, and which is built for the CIA to go and communicate with fucking scumbags and drug dealers and arms traffickers. You know, your job is to corrupt somebody and give them the things that corrupted them, you know, to get information out of a person. You deal with some unsavory people.
Yeah.
In that career profession. Yeah. All right. I mean, let's not make any mistake here. They've been smuggling drugs since 1938 into the USA.
Yeah, I got no rose-tinted glasses for any of those organizations.
Yeah. They're connected to the mafia, left hand, right hand. All right, black and white on the chessboard. Okay. Mm-hmm. You don't see the wizard on the chessboard, by the way. He's moving the pawns. He's moving the pieces.
He's moving the pieces, yeah.
He's moving the pieces. Whereas thus the chess wizard. So the only way to win is not to play on the board. Walk
it's a
around
wonderful metaphor.
Yeah. So there's supposedly some symbolism you're supposed to memorize with like the meanings of the letters on the pillars and what does A and B and C stand for and stuff like that, and a triangle. I've been hunting down all this weirdness. It's like, oh, look at that. They're exposing these people to other religions for the first time in their life. By the way, if you ever read a book that goes on forever, go and read The Golden Ass. It's supposed there's like books that are required for a person to read before they can become a magician, supposedly. And The Golden Ass is essentially it's got a donkey show in it and stuff like that. It's kind of cool.
Wait, like literally? Like literally?
Yeah, there's an actual
gosh.
donkey yeah. There's an actual donkey show in it. It's a story of a man who's transformed into a beast. And
I know what you're talking about. That's from
a beast, he reemerges as a man.
Yeah, that's a Hermetic text.
Yeah, it is. It was recommended by Terence McKenna, like I mentioned at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So these doomsday cults, these various accelerationist group doomsday cults, right?
How does this all connect back to D?
Huh?
How does this connect back to D?
Well, they're at the highest levels of these organizations. These religious organizations that these people are connected to, they follow D. Now, because I talk to angels and I use magic rituals to divine things. They do Enochian magic. All right. It's why they censor him out of history.
Gotcha. They want to control the power.
Now Alexander Dugin, that Russian intellectual, the guy who's required reading, he was kicked out of officer training school because he wouldn't give up his religion and that Nazi occult thing, Thulianism, which is also connected to D. All right. The
Thule Society has a lot of influence from Nietzsche as well.
Yeah. The Thulianism is not connected to D exactly. It's connected more through the cults that existed in the area that he was influencing at the time.
Yeah.
The Prussians. So, the Latsky's family.
The Bohemians specifically. Yeah. That whole area.
Yeah. So
that's more central Germany than Prussia's northern Germany.
Yeah. But
I get what you're saying.
So we've got these secret Nazi groups that are connected. We're seeing emergences of them over in Ukraine. Okay. The school shooters sporting the occult symbolism. All right. Makes me ask, are those child sacrifices?
Oh, good God.
Yeah. All right. Willing sacrifices too.
That's such a crazy rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah. So I was online and I was watching all these cults influence the United States. And I tried escaping the Cayman Islands so I could go and hunt down the creators of the last, Jim and Ron Watkins had stolen it from Brennan. And I was I'd known this for a while and I was like, yep, I got to get up and do something and get off my ass. And I almost left. If I had gotten, I couldn't find anybody to finance me. I was dead broke. I was able to make a little bit of money off of the GameStop stuff though. Not as much as I should have. I got GM screwed day 2.
So what do you think about the Enochian language, though? Because there's no way that Kelly created it. He wasn't a linguist. He wasn't good at...
No. It was definitely channeled to him.
Do you think that they were real angels channeling that language?
Yeah, I believe that it was being channeled to him, that he was just a receiver. There's just some people that are like psychic lightning rods. So Dugin gets kicked out of school. And he's in Moscow. It's 1977, 78, and he gets a forged library card for the Moscow Lenin Library to go into a forbidden book section. Now, I'm an American. I don't know where you're from, Mr. Hacker.
California.
All right. California. But, for me growing up as a kid, there was no forbidden book section in the library. There was a library that's too far away from me, but there was a video store across the street with forbidden movie section in the back, and I would sneak into that too. So,
well, it's because none of the forbidden books are allowed into modern libraries in the first place.
There we go. You think you got everything you want to read.
Nope.
So he goes into the forbidden book section, and this is from his biography. And he goes, within this book section within the library, there are the secrets of the Masons and the secrets of the Tsars involved in arcane and occult things.
Nice accent.
And so, yeah, thanks. I was trying to, young Dugin gets caught by the KGB. He's the son of a GRU, which is separate. That's military intelligence. Third or fourth generation. All right. His family's been there since his grandfather was partially responsible for the assassination of Rasputin.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So, and Rasputin was assassinated because of the machinations of a group connected to the Green Dragon cult, which was, there's a symbol for him. It was like a green swastika. Hitler was a Thulian. All right. It was an active cult. And Rasputin was using these occult networks to reach out to the British to reach out to the Germans to try and surrender. And the British didn't want that. They wanted to keep them in the war. So they made arrangements to have Rasputin assassinated. They're probably alerted to the entire thing because of Crowley's connections to the same networks. Now Rasputin had been, so he knew like the secrets that drove Trotsky, who paid Trotsky and trained him, and why. Trotsky, by the way, had been the creates the communist empire, had been trained by some guys over in America that given him like $18 million in gold at that time, which is a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Billions. Send him over to Vienna. He hooked him up. Yeah, hooked him up, Lenin, sent him across a financing of a man named Edward Bernays. Have you ever heard of Edward Bernays?
I have not. Who is that?
Edward Bernays is the father of modern day. He created the field of propaganda. He was Sigmund Freud's nephew. He received Sigmund Freud's thesis and on, thought constructs and the zeitgeist and everything else, and perfected it.
Ed Gregorius.
He was given an award by President Woodrow Wilson for making the American consumer identity. He made diamonds a girl's best friend, women to smoke, all that kind of stuff. He caused wars to kill people over the price of bananas in Guatemala. He would learn how to fake stories. He was a super genius.
Sounds about right. You there?
Repeat, sir. You lagged out.
Yeah, we had a little technical difficulties. Sounds good.
I got off Wi-Fi.
Oh, there you go.
Sir?
Yeah, I can hear. So we're back.
We have a guy out here with an electric. Yeah, we have some people doing some electric motor work, and I guess they're making a magnetic field that's interfering with the Wi-Fi. So switched over to 5G.
Those bastards.
Cooking my brain.
So what do you think about Kelly? Do you think that Kelly was legit? Oh, sorry. Go on. You were already talking about something.
So Dugin's work. So Dugin's, the secrets most likely that Dugin read about, which go and get into his occult stuff and his discussion on national angels, most likely came about because of his revelations imparted to the czars from Arthur D.
Okay.
All right. So Dugin is like travels the world as this rock and roll KGB agent. They didn't send him to prison when they caught him reading these books. Once Dugin, with his great mind, was able to understand like everything, they made this guy a KGB agent. They gave him a budget and they gave him a passport and sent him around the world.
They were into it.
Yeah, he was in the heavy metal and he played guitar. He was a metalhead, punk rock and roll Satanist KGB agent. That's such a cool cover, right? Yeah, traveling the world, meeting weird groups.
That's nuts.
So Dugin. Yeah, present day. So we've tied this lineage, the revolution in the United Kingdom, the formation of the British Empire, creating the United States. All right, these secret movements connected to Rosicrucians and everything else, all in this great game for the apocalypse. Now, right now, Dugin is one of the key figures behind this kind of stuff. All right, he's like he's had massive influence on Russian intellectual communities and set out, his waves. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so all these different groups are connected. All right. Now, here in the United States, we have a corporation called BlackRock, owns 15% of the world's wealth at this current point in time, uses AI, probably generations in advance of us.
Oh yeah.
To go and corner markets, to manipulate world currencies. I mean, the American steel, making all imports of steel, the American steel already had contracts that were leading it to warehouses in Canada, owned by shadowy groups that then resold us our own steel.
Shady.
It's like they can do manipulations to us in ways that we can't appreciate. And they can, through the work of men like Edward Bernays, they understand how to manipulate our zeitgeist. What color to make something to make us want to eat it.
Oh man, they make people go crazy. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And with the Mercers using multiple generations of AI, we're able to use Cambridge Analytica to go and channel people's to specific sites so they could be radicalized once they've been profiled.
It's all a part of the algorithm.
Software. Yeah, they can even tell through software based on the certain tones of your voice, your mental health and well-being.
They can tell on what you click on.
Yeah. So they can even scan our phone conversations.
Put you in a little category. Yep.
Yeah. So, absolute total technocratic control of the world and society. All the money gets sewed up. You're able to have AI do your will to go and isolate any potential future threats. You're able to manipulate, you're able to sublimate people's desires for things by having them replace it with communal spaces and digital places. All right.
Living in the Matrix.
Living in your matrix. Exactly. The light of God gets snuffed out.
Well, that's just
Nicely
inconvenient for people to have that.
Yeah, we can't have people have morality.
They just need to go buy McDonald's and shut up.
Yeah, we can't have these people have morality or a variety of different opinions. Eat your McChow.
So old-fashioned. Just drink your fluoride, nerd.
All right. So the Nazis tried a lot of things trying to find out how to control people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
That was the a good book to read, by the way, is Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl.
Absolutely.
It's an account. Oh God, such a wonderful book. Really profound.
Yeah.
The group that got communism into power. All right. The group that they lost control of their creation. It was, by the way, Edward Bernays for the communist creation was doing the advertising campaigns to influence illiterate peasants to go communist. Russia was originally socialist, and the communism that we see today is nothing like actual socialism. It's this bastardization, advertising, marketing version of it to make you think that way. The last thing that the people that want to own the world want you to do is to own your own things.
Yep. It's a threat.
So they discourage local power co-ops, and they discourage that kind of stuff because, it's a threat to their power that they've consolidated. Like beef production in the United States is majority controlled now by a cartel, an ethnic cartel that uses their religion to, validate what they do, right? And their belief systems. This is tied to out of the virtue of the apocalypse issue.
Gotcha.
All right. Okay. Their religious beliefs are their eminent dominance and the enslavement of all other groups beneath them, and willing slavery.
Yeah, you got to have the jail be jailered by the people in the jail. It's just easier.
Of course. Makes absolutely perfect sense.
You're getting into Bilderberg stuff. Yeah, I gotcha. I'm on page.
Yeah. Okay. So, the ultimate goal being delivering this one group to becoming the highest caste of our society, ruling over us. All right. With a higher caste above them, and et cetera, all the way ultimately up to your top, your key goldstone shining single block all the way at the top.
Yeah. And maybe even create two separate branches of humanity in the process.
Oh God. Breeding humans.
Yep. You got the dum-dums and then you got the elite. Well, for lack of a better word.
That was proposed by Socrates in not in Plato's concept of the perfect republic, but when Socrates said the history of man dated back relative to his perspective, like from written records, like we're talking clay tablets, to the year, like approximately his perspective.
Go on. Sorry. Huh? Sorry. Go on.
Yeah. To the year 8 to 10,000 BC. This is discussed in the Timalius. And that prior to that, mankind was kept in slavery and bred like animals.
Yeah.
So I can believe that.
Well, it depends on what perspective you're coming from, but I understand.
Yeah. Well, what was first will be last.
What was last will be first. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Dark Ages. You're going to go back to breeding camps now.
Welcome to neo-feudalism.
Yeah. My vision that I had that ended up all bringing me about to find out about D and stuff like that said if I didn't get my message out, I would be turned into a castrated pig.
Yikes.
Yeah. And it showed me my vision of hell.
That was your vision?
Oh, factory farm.
Oh, yeah. Dude. Working a corporate job is hell to me. That if hell exists and that like the worst version of hell for me would be just working a day-to-day corporate job.
I don't know. Castrated pig running around in the darkness of a factory farm, ass to nose to ass with every other pig, and shoulder to shoulder seems like a pretty bad place to be for me.
If you're a pig, that like does sound pretty crappy. I agree, but at the same time, we're talking about massively
literally, it's everywhere. Be in your toes,
of consciousness.
You can lay down. Yeah. Be in your food that's filled with plastic bits.
But the thing is if all you know is darkness and suffering, eventually the darkness and suffering goes away, and it's just another Tuesday.
Oh, just yeah. It's a screaming, naked, ballless pig.
Mm-hmm.
And then that is corporate America.
Yeah, it is. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it is. So welcome to your algorithmically controlled future.
Enjoy the quantum computing.
Humanities included. One group, there are certain people that say that, and this is not my writings. If there's a book series by a guy named, there's so many names I have to keep in my head. David Livingstone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, David Livingstone is a Canadian author, and his seminal work was on the various religions of the world and had a few problems in it. It was not bad, though. And it goes on. He wrote about writings of certain ethnic groups that, religious, we all have them in every religion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's when that religious group has money and power that's different.
Yeah.
And that's when it can get dangerous. And this other one teaches that, the lives of 1,000, not us, is not worth one of our fingernails.
Yeah.
And that other people have the souls of a beast and come forth from the depths of darkness and are animals, because everybody that came from the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve and their descending children, were true humans. The people outside of the garden, were proto-humans. This is kind of the Mormon thing, by the way, as well, the early teachings. Mm-hmm. And therefore, there are different degrees of purity of humanity for these people.
Well, that could that ideal could just go really wrong really quick.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's how you get inbred families, but that's also how you get elitist groups.
That's how you get genocide too.
Yeah, that's how you get genocide. The same group that caused the rise of the communists, which may or may not have gotten out of their control, were also responsible for the Armenian genocide. They were part and parcel to the cause of slavery. In the teachings of Jacob of Sabati Zavai's reincarnation, which is essentially the party hat got moved around to somebody else and went to a guy named Jacob Frank eventually. When he was working with James Wisehouse and the Rothschilds, they weren't yet the Rothschilds yet. They were working on their plans of changing the world, inverting the meaning of good and evil, when they did the formation of the Illuminati. And they cynically said that they wanted to make all men good.
Who defines what is and is not good?
Exactly. Ultimately, what
subjective
who defines these things.
Well, the golden rule is a good pointer, though.
For them, that will be the Mashiach.
Yeah.
The one guy will come around and finally begin to clarify things for them. But that they would corrupt all the Masonic lodges and all that other kind of stuff and endeavor to do these things. So this other group has been slowly eroding away rival ways of thought, rival lodges, to dominate and invert and change the world. Could be tie into your gay agenda discussion, right? To alter the zeitgeist of humanity and make certain things acceptable that were once seen as unacceptable. As Alexander Dugin is doing right now, he says that they are having a conference on the 29th discussing multipolarity and the erosion and destruction of the United States as the world leader. And that the other forms of government are acceptable. And they're talking about, the Chinese way of doing things.
Which is just a nightmare.
Yeah. Same thing in the United Kingdom and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Say if you have an opinion, you'll be snatched up. When China, you report a dirty cop, you get put in a fucking black site prison.
Yeah.
Never to be seen or heard of again. All right. In Cuba, it's a mafia that runs that place. These are essentially like lodge organizations, also hereditary based, occasionally inviting new talented members into them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And secretly, all of them are working towards a unified goal. So, the year 1720, as you know, is the year that the first Grand Lodge was built over in London.
Yeah.
The city of London burnt down in the year 16 something or another, 1660 something.
Just a real quick interjection. Do you believe that the Freemasons were Knights Templar by any chance? Do you come from that perspective?
Yeah, some of them were.
Okay, go on.
Yeah.
Go on.
So some of them probably fled up to Scotland and stuff like that. They're connected to, since you want to bring that up, have you ever heard of Hassan al-Sabah?
The assassins?
Yes, the assassins, the Hashishans. All right, so Hassan al-Sabah, before him and his network that went on for hundreds of years, that initiated the Masons when they got over to Solomon's temple and claimed the basement and went down in Solomon's well to find treasure. Because, the treasure's always at the bottom of the well.
Mm-hmm.
So, duh.
They got to excavate all kinds of stuff that nobody else had access to.
Okay, so have you ever heard of the Mad Caliph? This is really obfuscated history.
No.
All right, the Mad Caliph was around the year 960. He's like the great grandson of Muhammad. He's terribly inbred after 3 or 4 generations of cousin fucking. And he does something insane. So he goes, and this ends up creating the Ismaili Islam line, which eventually ends up creating simultaneously the Druze and so Hassan al-Sabah. So he takes the stone that everybody kisses when they go and they visit Mecca and they go inside the Kaaba or whatever. And now this stone is a meteorite that had fallen from space, and it was like a roadside show, and people would leave their little individual idols and stuff, like various idols to their various gods there. And when Muhammad came upon it, selling his carpets or whatever, got a bunch of idiots getting ready to dip their hands in pig's blood and declare war upon each other over the honor of picking up this big rock and putting it back in place after it had fallen out.
Oh.
So like that's so he's like, hey, look, retards, you don't need to kill each other over putting a stone back. We'll do it together if that makes it easier for you. We'll get one of my carpets and we'll put it onto that, and then none of us touch it, put it there, and we go about our lives. And he was seen as the bringer of rationale and peace to this region. So he got a little corrupted with power, I'm going to say though. His grandson ended up taking this stone and breaking it into 2 pieces. And the smaller piece is the one that's over in Mecca now that they kiss. And the bigger piece he put on, at the time, the capital of their empire was Alexandria. And the stone was there, it wasn't in Mecca. The little stone.
Is this during Coptic times?
This is the year 960.
Oh, never mind.
That's
way after.
Blazed a trail. It's conquered most of the known world.
Yeah. I knew that actually. I'm just being dumb.
Yeah.
Go on.
So he took that big stone, he cast it into the well over in Jerusalem in Solomon's temple, and he wandered out into the desert and died.
Mm-hmm.
No shit. Mad Caliph, censored part of history. And that kind of ended up kicking off the Crusades.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's one of the treasures at the bottom of Solomon's well. It's like one of the unifying treasures. All right.
Yeah.
So, it's like, I say like all these like doomsday things.
Mm-hmm.
So that as like who wants to do what and why. So the Chinese communist social credit score, controlled monetary system, controlled thought system, censored books, censored internet, censored media.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Lobotomized kids, all that kind of stuff. All this because they believe that they're doing the will of God because they're supposed to help bring about the apocalypse.
Yeah, that's pretty twisted.
So, So if you get dogmatic, even if the people at the very top are not dogmatic, but you're thus doing the dogma.
Yeah, I'm not dogmatic at all, personally, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. God the Islam people have like a thingy where God reserves the right to edit. I like that one.
See, in my opinion, looking at God from my perspective, I'm not trying to force my ideas on anyone, but God isn't Christian. God isn't Muslim. God isn't anything. He doesn't have any of these labels. This is just a subjective human interface that we use with the ineffable.
Yeah, there's a really wise rabbi, and he says the same God you don't believe in is the same God I don't believe in.
Yeah.
All right. It's like
So dogma to me is just like laughably ignorant. But I mean, at the same time, if you're a dogmatic listener, that's just my
we're
perspective.
Getting there, though.
Yeah, go on.
Armored tanks, dragonfly helicopters, and potentially a World War III scenario looming on the horizon. The empires rolling themselves up, and the movement towards an invisible global financial.
You look at the Book of Revelation. There's all kinds of stuff going on.
Hi there, thanks for listening to Cryptic Chronicles. The show is sponsored by Blueberry, and if you're interested in starting your own podcast, use our link. We'll even give your podcast a shout out. Go to crypticchroniclespodcast.com and click on the Blueberry link on the homepage. By doing so, you'll be helping the show. Blueberry is optimized for iTunes as well as all podcast hubs. You won't have to worry about expensive contracts or fees. In fact, you won't have to leave your own website. You'll have your own RSS feed and no third-party sites. Try it for a month free by going through Cryptic Chronicles. Also, if you're a fan of cryptic content, please support the show on Patreon. By giving just $1 a month, you can really assist us in posting more content frequently. You'll also have access to bonus ad-free episodes of the show and the Discord channel. To keep up with all Cryptic Chronicles content, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and of course Facebook. Give the Facebook page a like and join the Cryptic Chronicles group. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for supporting the show, but most of all, thanks for listening.
Yeah. Now, whether or not that is because of God's will, or like Sabati Sabai said, we bring about the thing and to make it happen. Okay.
Well, these people are specifically trying to make it happen, right?
Exactly. Because in the Thulian, the cult that Flynn was a part of, the Universal and Triumphant, these people have bomb shelters all around the world, and that shit requires money. All right. A lot of them got into military intelligence. So they're not poor. Those are good paying jobs.
Yeah.
Really good. You want to be rich, be an officer in the U.S. military. You want your kid to be rich, have your kid grow up to become an officer.
Well,
in the US
any of the big government jobs, you just make so much money under the table.
I'm not going to say how my sources got things, but like Roger Stone used to hang out with hookers, and so did I, specifically because they hear the coolest things.
And they do have the best stories.
I don't know if that's insider trading when you have people that are on Wall Street telling a hooker a hot stock tip. That's how I got Ethereum at $1.25. So
That's
anyway,
funny.
It's like the lost almost everything. The life. So these people, these doomsday cultists bringing about their things and stuff like that. Some of them are in government, but that brings us to another discussion. That the outlined goal of the Frankists and the working with Weishaupt, their Illuminatus movement, was we will find the most awful and horrible, incompetent people, and we will elevate them in society.
Yeah, totally. Because if people do horrible things, then you can blackmail them easier.
Yeah, there you go. All right, this is how you get, but it's like, how on earth does this Yeehaw Junction yokel with no education? I know that everybody has a self-determination, and perhaps she might be representative of her district, go and achieve such a point of power. Where do they get their money? Then you go and you find out that, they're backed by the Mercers.
Yeah.
All right. It's like, how the fuck did you come into contact with billionaires influencing elections and altering the course
Because
of the
they
world?
want people
We're
that
at the
they
edge
can
of World War
control.
III because of these people.
Yeah. It's all about control. You can't have politicians in power that can actually do good stuff for the people. Are you silly? I'm being sarcastic.
I was doing a research paper on Cuba recently, and like that country imports ridiculous amounts of food, and it could feed its own people domestically. And it's like, why? So the people are dependent upon the state to acquire them the food that they need to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And
if they feed you, what are you going to do? Do what we say.
Yeah.
Or you won't eat.
Do as I say, or you'll starve.
Yep.
Yeah. People you don't have 3 months of supplies. Those crazy Christians with the buckets of food kind of
they got a point.
Yeah. Alex Jones knew something that we didn't. Why? He was helping cause it.
You're saying stuff we don't like on the internet? Oh, let's turn off your credit card.
Oh, man.
Beep.
The way that they're going to be able to blacklist and block people now. And I put my name on the front of this.
Yeah.
But does it really even matter?
Well, I hope that they don't destroy me, but I don't know. It's...
Oh. you see, remember the eye at the top of the pyramid?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't want the eye to fall upon you.
Exactly. But in the end, it's worth it.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. So, I've been eye falling upon you. I actually harassed Dugan and the Chinese officials during the multipolarity conference that they had.
Oh, really?
Because I've been trying to get a hold of Dugan for a while. He was censored out of Western media also. I'm like, listen, I need your confirmation on my Arthur D thesis. I don't even know where to find the book, but I know you do. His daughter gets blown up. He sent his Gmail was cut off. His books are kept out of the West. He was barely talked about and everything else. And I look at this guy's contribution to things, and I look at the cults going on. It makes me wonder, the chicken or egg kind of situation.
Right.
And have you ever had any conversations with Alexander Dugan and compared your Jungian conceptualizations of archetypes to his national angels? Like, these people like to think of themselves as like God hands. You ever read Berserk?
Oh yeah, I love Berserk. I got the whole series.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. Well, the creator of it was talking about Russian spiritualism, and
there is so much occult stuff in that. Holy crap!
Yeah. He was heavily influenced by this. Great artists are heavily influenced by this stuff. Of course, Neil Gaiman, Roger Moore. All right, the guy who wrote Terry Pratchett, the creator of Discworld, Arthur C. Clarke. All right, Arthur C. Clarke.
Totally. Creative people get sucked in really easily.
Yeah, Arthur. I read most of his works and I loved his stuff. But Arthur C. Clarke has this one part. There in my backyard getting breadfruit. Arthur C. Clarke wrote this one book, Childhood Ends, and somebody made a movie about it. When they were doing the movie, the projections of the letters that these people were getting in the transmissions was an Enochian. All right. I think they're dropping a hint there. So the things come out and they're devils, and mankind gets transformed into a higher state, an energy being state, and elevated up into space, kind of like what Dee wanted, our ascension, our rapture. All right. And then they blow the planet up. And there are some references to it being called this. Yeah. There's some references to it being called the sweetening.
I noticed that a lot of UFO cults like to call things ascension.
Yeah. So, there's one group of them that think that they weren't angels, that they were actually psychic alien transmissions.
Yeah.
Right? There's other more complex concepts of like drawn out, like the Philip K. Dick book Valis, VALIS, Vast Alien Living Intelligence System. That there is this universal consciousness supercomputer going on, all like St. Anselm's argument, all things being within the mind of God that can never be imagined.
Mm-hmm.
And that there are lesser entities, like the ones that Dee spoke to. He like the names of God that were translated to him, the 49 names in the wheel, Bobigel, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And that then beneath them that there are even other subcomponents. And so that these archetypes have an order to the universe, and that they look at things in certain ways. Are you familiar with the concept of gray goo?
No, what's that?
Nanites programmed to self-replicate would eventually devour the earth and all biomass upon it, and then go and spread out to go and repeat process as nauseum until creating a non-entropic unified substance of gray goo.
Well, that's horrifying.
Yeah. Okay. Humanity on this planet, macro, zoom out. What is it, this microorganism that we've developed on this planet? Self-replicable. All right. Reorganizes matter as it sees fit. Dangerous.
Hosts
Hostile.
for consciousness.
Yeah. Do we allow this entity to inherit the stars and give it the universe and do as it has done on its planet to other planets because its work is good? Or do we nip this one in the bud?
I'd say let it
Good
play
seed
out.
or bad seed?
Let it play out.
All right.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
If I was like looking at it from a macrocosmic perspective.
Let it play out. It'll figure out something. But what if you judge it to be, it's like, okay, this thing isn't good. This thing is dangerous. This is a hostile alien race.
But if you're looking at it from the macrocosmic perspective, like what the hell is good? It has no meaning. No, that's a subjective human view.
There we go. What is good? Do we have shared values with these alien entities,
exactly.
et cetera, et cetera?
You got to throw all of your basic way of looking at the world completely out the window if you're looking at it the way that you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what better way of making an analysis to angels, to an alien? It's utterly unknowable. It's outside.
Yeah.
All right. And so have these, and it's a big universe. God's created other infinite intelligent
universes.
life forms and stuff to serve him previously to us. All right. And these things act as wills of judgment. And it's like, I do not like this. I have judged it bad. Delete it. In the Twilight Zone episode, they had it be that the aliens came along and judged Earth to be too peaceful because they needed warrior races.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, the introduction of the science and the technology and stuff like that perhaps was a thing, like supposedly. And this is how I get to the science technology part. Rene Descartes was coming back from burning Prague, burning Bohemia. He was a soldier, a mercenary in the Habsburgs armies. True story. So Rene Descartes coming back from burning Prague. John Dee's work of creating New Bohemia has been destroyed. And Descartes says upon the road he received a vision and that the angel Gabriel came down to him and told him that he had destroyed God's work and that he had to bring about the light or something like that. And thus Rene Descartes, father of the French Renaissance.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's this national angel, this egregore, all right, a word that people hear increasingly more and more. This outside influence came upon him and instructed him to go about. And Rene Descartes did massive contributions and is known to this day as a philosopher and scientist. All right, connected through D, not through personal interactions necessarily, but through definitely a very shared, interesting covenant.
Yeah.
So, groups bringing about the apocalypse. All right. Now, if these groups are out there and they are doing these things, what could we do to counteract them? Do you fight fire with fire? Do you go and you find a bunch of people out there and say, hey, you know what all you people need to do right now? So you need to go and read a copy of The Golden Ass. There's an audiobook for it. Go through your own personal alchemical journey. Some of the Masonic lodges, their initiations are based off of old alchemical principles, like the mechanics, which you can find their initiation grades online on their website, have it being color coded, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, go and read about, guys like Hermes Trismegistus, right? Have you ever covered him on your show?
I am doing an episode on him right now. I'm putting together all the research.
Okay. Well, you're going to want this because this will not be included in anything else. All right. This is my own little joy. All right. Sir Isaac Newton was studying alchemy over at Cambridge under his professor Hooke, a midget that was hunchback. History is cruel. All right. Mm-hmm. So Sir Isaac Newton, at that time just Isaac, got in an argument with this hunchback midget professor. Probably had buck teeth and bad skin too. Guy's cursed already, right? And over the topic of the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. And Sir Isaac Newton goes back to his room, and then 2 weeks later, belted out the laws of motion, the mathematical quantification of the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. And that if I like to go and take the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, once you understand the context of it, give it to people that study physics, because this was eliminated from any discussion. His students, his Isaac Newton students, didn't want their illustrious professor, the father of physics, to be remembered as a man who practiced astronomy and believed in practiced astrology and believed in numerology.
But that's where physics came from.
Yeah. So the Catholic Church wouldn't allow physics to be taught to students because they said it was demonic, because Hermes Trismegistus, when introduced in context, this guy helped produce the laws of motion. Therefore, it creates a whole kind of question about the divinity and origin of his stuff, because why doesn't the Bible produce such similar results?
It also means that a lot of our modern science is based off of the occult originally. Yeah.
And then there's also, when you discuss, Newton's, when you read the laws of motion, the 3 universal constants are counted in Hermes' name. And additionally, the principle of entropy is also at the very bottom of it. I like showing it to physics people in physics and engineering after explaining the context and having them give it a read. They usually enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and also Hermes in the Picatrix may have been the one that prophesied the coming of Christ. And that that gets also all sorts of weird.
There's so many weird ways to look at all this stuff, man. Yeah. You also can look at the Emerald Tablets of Thoth is another rabbit hole. But when you research that guy a little bit, he's not as legitimate, nearly as legitimate as the Emerald Tablet of Hermes.
Well, the origin story of the Emerald Tablet of Hermes is an interesting one because there's 2 variations of it. And they claim that a little boy fell into a cave in Cappadocia. All right. Cappadocia, by the way, is in Turkey, modern day. It has a lot of really, really nice caves and hotels in them. All right. I think that there's probably some kind of party that goes on there. I'm going to find out. I hunt for these things. So the cave in Cappadocia, there's a similar story about it was how they found the tomb of the man who founded the Rosicrucian order. Oh, fell into a cave, an entrance of this thing. And
Christian Rosencreutz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there we go. So the guy who created the legend of Christian Rosencreutz was most likely Francis Bacon, who was drawing upon the legend of the origin of the Emerald Tablet of Hermes and his introduction of Rosicrucianism to the West.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So there's the little weird subtleties, but but that's that origin story that we're speaking of now. Rosicrucian himself comes from even earlier than that, of course.
Hermeticism goes all the way back to ancient Egypt.
All right. So this is where this is going to go and kind of veer off of D, but keep with it. Okay. All right. So we know that the Masonic lodges that were formed up in 1720 were built. The first one was built off of the stones of the walls of the city of London. And the Guild Hall is also there. The Guild Hall is like think about intellectual property rights now and stuff like that. The guilds used to have it sewn up that if you left your profession, they would dispatch an assassin to kill you.
Oh yeah, they took their shit seriously.
The guilds had existed since Rome. All right.
Yeah, and you couldn't give away the secrets. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. So they built the guild hall is there. So the guilds and the Masons and these elite families and corporations control the world with their invisible financial empire. As Meyer Rothschild said, the man who controls the money has more power than any king or emperor, and I control the money.
Yep.
Okay. Good on you, Meyer. So sometimes, a little good, a little bad. You can never, people are innately selfish, evil people, it's just march of humanity. You can't get everybody to go and do things.
Most people are just shades of gray. Yeah.
Huh?
Most people are just shades of gray. Like 99% of people, only like 1% or less than 1% are like pure good or evil. They're extremely rare.
Saints. All right. Go and find that guy and canonize him. Buy him. Don't give him anything, though. You might corrupt him.
He probably would just want to hang out by himself, most likely.
Oh, I hope. As I sit pacing my room discussing the occult with some stranger on the phone.
Hey, we're not a stranger, man. We've been talking for almost 2 hours.
For a radio listening audience. All right. Which beat trails of thought. So we're discussing the lodges. So the guild halls and stuff like that. This is the secret network that controls the world. It makes you kind of think, wow, is John Wick real?
Yeah. Not in that way, but yeah, the idea.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There are private military crews out there, you know.
We live in the age of mercenaries.
Shit. Yeah.
It's just that the mainstream just doesn't talk about it because that goes against our narratives.
Yeah. Yeah. The belief systems of some of these guys, like the Wagner group. Wagner, Rings of the Nibelheim. All right. You know, Nazi occultism is connected. So, let's not talk about that. The Masonic lodges go and start, not just them, though. There's other lodges that pop up all over the place. Essentially, all these secret societies decided, okay, we're coming out of the shadows and we're going to go and build a local thing. All right. And there are many of them, and they were slowly all absorbed and incorporated under one roof. And over in the city of Birmingham, where my surname's from, there was the Luna Lodge. All right. And the Luna Lodge was the place that Benjamin Franklin went to go and visit before he went to go and meet. They made the arrangements for him to meet Voltaire. And Voltaire was representative of an Illuminatist movement that was trying to overthrow the French government, known Rosicrucian. And, if you want to bring in the illustrious Saint Germain, who was a contemporary of his, was also in the city around this time, and was warning the British royalty of the impending revolution that was coming for them.
The Ascended Master Saint Germain.
Yeah. I met some people that claimed to be vampires and his grandchildren when I grew up in Miami.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. And that guy hasn't aged. That guy is all right. So going on, rich family too. I have no idea where their money came from. So Birmingham, the city of Birmingham, in the year 1480, England's in the War of the Roses. All right, everything's bad, and the Black Plague's going on at the same time. And this family over in that city, the De Birminghams, which may or may not be descendants of Bjorn Ironside.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's called, made it so that any person who was a serf could run away to their city. And if you made it for 3 years, you would get freedom. Okay. That means if they liked you, they keep you and you do whatever you want and become a free man. And that they kicked the guilds out and they said that you can practice any religion.
All Sounds good.
It was a first free city in England, maybe even in Europe. All right. And they began printing. They were involved in a secret society movement over there as well at that time to print books. There was legal to teach people to read. The Gutenberg Press came out around 1488 or so and began mass printing books and spreading literacy. It becomes much harder to control and oppress people when they're literate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this family goes and creates the first free city in England, and it spreads. All right. They make laws preventing other cities from doing what they do. All right. But because this is a private town, they can do whatever they want. And in the year 1527, a man named Dudley, who was the assistant to Henry VIII, goes and kidnaps a man named Edward Birmingham after inviting him to the city of London for business talks. Now, the city of London, they had asked him to sell his city, his free city, to them. It's the second largest city in England, in exchange for a ridiculous amount of money. And he said he wasn't going to sell. And he wanted to go and create a classless society. So they caught him on the road and they arrest him. They put him in jail for highway robbery because he was asking for too much. Actual charge. You check the wiki.
Wow.
And they got him to, after a year in the Tower of London of torture, they got him to sign everything away for £1. And they gave him a 40-pound a year deal, which is like real poverty, and they kicked him out of his house and his family too. Now he had a lot of cousins, all right, and they had spin-off families, and like my family in Northern Ireland, and they had others Ireland, and they had others in like Wales and Scotland and Norman France. And those families eventually sold all their stuff and came to the United States and established the first Masonic Lodge in 1735 over in South Carolina. I think it's like the AF or something like that, Ancient Freemasons. And by 1775, they had started up guerrilla warfare in the South. You can Google the name James Birmingham. James Birmingham is an ancestor of, not my direct, yeah, he is my ancestor. He died fighting in a bush battle against the British soldiers. A lot of people like to think 1776 and then it happened. My family was already at war trying to expel the British and was having bushfire wars with them in the South.
Cool.
We were like, we were like proper like American patriot revolutionaries. Deleted from history. You know, having the story of a landless royal family that believed in freedom and helped create the United States would really compete with the 1776 narrative. So it's edited out of history.
Can't have that.
Yeah. So they were probably aware of the doomsday movement. Okay. The whole apocalypse thing because of the Masonic implications and that guy Elias Ashmole being the first known Mason. So he was, you know, in his publication of those books, right? The true and faithful account of what happened between John Dee and some angels. Their publications of these books allowed for the proliferation of the understanding of what was going on, because it was the 5 mysteries of John Dee. Now, I'll close this conversation since you never read this. I'm going to go and skip to page 365 of the book. They've received all of their transmissions, their little sigils that looks like things out of the seals of Solomon. They've received the Liber Logoth, which is it's a book that's penned in it, and they didn't know how to translate it at first. That came later. And it's a discussion about the emergence of the Antichrist. Here it is. Okay. Page 395. All right. The entity is speaking to Dee is Medimi? No, it's Uriel.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Medimi was their main guide overall throughout the entire conversations, but Uriel was one of the other main people they talked to.
Yeah. So Uriel, who is the force of God, and Uriel, I believe, is supposed to be the one in the west. I'm not sure. There's like an invocation of the
yes, Uriel is the west, and he is earth.
Yeah, he is the west, and he is earth. Okay.
Yeah, he's the elements that he rules over is earth, and he's in the west.
Oh, thank you for telling me that. Yeah, the relation of the elemental charts in the tablets, the watchtowers, was made later on. Thank you for bringing that up to me. I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Therefore, I say, prepare your bodies, that they may be strong enough for armors of great proof. Of yourselves you cannot, but desire, and it shall be given unto you. For now it is even that wicked child grown up unto perfection, and the fire tongues ready to open his jaws. Woe therefore shall be to the nations of the earth, and woe innumerable to those that say, we yield. Wickedness, O Lord, is crept up and hath filled the doors of the holy sanctuary, defiled the dwelling place of the holy angels, and poisoned the earth as her own seat. And 40 days more must this book be perfected in his own manner, to the intent that you shall allow may be perfected in the workmanship of him which hath sealed it. Out of this shall be restored the holy books which have perished, even from the beginning and from the first that lived. All right, it goes on.
That's cool.
Yeah. And herein shall be deciphered perfect truth, that imperfect falsehood, true religion from the false and damnable errors, with all arts which are proper to the use of man, the first and sanctified perfection, which when it hath spread a while, then cometh the end. So the message is that everybody's supposed to go and read like the Liber Loga and get the knowledge out to the population of what's going on. And then after everybody figures out what's happening, right, and they understand, then the end's supposed to occur.
Cool. That's deep stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. When people talk about the John Dee thing and will it or will it not cause the apocalypse, that's the passage that they're referencing.
Mm-hmm.
In the back of the book, on the John Dee's 5 Books of Mystery, there's supposedly a bunch of stuff to go and summon elemental entities, you know?
Yeah.
That this may be one of the hidden rituals of higher levels of Masons. All right.
Yeah.
There's also other books that I felt should be mentioned, that there's a thing called the Abramelin ritual.
Yep, Abramelin the Mage.
Yes. And he was a contemporary of Dee, and his stuff is never mentioned. So I believe that in order to invoke the guardian angel, that he had come down, that
the
Dee
HGA.
Most likely use that ritual to go and bring it about. And for it, you have to be married and be a good Christian and all this other kind of stuff. And it's a long time and a lot of prayer and a room dedicated with an altar.
And then you were talking earlier about the being who was headless that they were talking about. There's also a ritual of that as well. That's called the Bornless ritual.
Oh, that's a recreation from Crowley. Do not trust it.
No, it's actually translated wrong. It's headless, not bornless. That was an inaccurate translation.
Yeah, don't trust Crowley. There's the number one thing. Didn't you ever watch the show?
Don't trust Crowley. Have you ever read about Crowley? Don't trust him. Obviously.
Trust him.
I mean, if he saw you in the afterlife, he'd be like, why'd you trust me, you idiot?
Yeah, here's a shortcut to go and get your guardian angel to come down to you. I'm sure that God loves shortcuts.
I just think he was kind of a trickster.
So Dee predicted that the year would end in the year 2037.
Ah.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, happens.
I hope not.
Personally, I don't really think that's, well, in my personal belief system, there's not really room for absolutes in any perspectives or ideologies or reality tunnels of these religious, factions. But I believe that people can make things happen on purpose if they really want to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I believe that too. Very much so. I did that on purpose has been told to me many times. Dee's work has been heavily influential in our world and deliberately obscured by people of the pinnacle of power. All right. The stuff that I've spoken with you tonight has taken me 2 years of reading to uncover. There's some really great books out there too. Like I would suggest also reading Eliminate the Opiate. And anything by David Livingston, because he offers alternative perspectives.
I love reading.
Yeah. There's a lot here. All right. And then that's not to mention that there's the requisite moral and religious requirements of this stuff. And I don't think that a lot of the people out there really honestly have what it takes, so I feel a lot of the folks that got into this stuff were seduced by power.
I think that a lot of people who get into this stuff go nuts.
That too. There's a program for this in Amsterdam, and you can get a doctorate in esoterica and arcane stuff at a university in Amsterdam, and it has a disproportionate number of people in this doctoral program that go insane.
Yeah, now, I've interviewed somebody from that.
Oh, you do? You have a friend that's in that program?
Well, he's an acquaintance. No, I just interviewed him.
Contributor to the show?
Yeah. I interviewed him once. He's an acquaintance, but he's a really interesting guy. And yeah, he said that a lot of the people who do that kind of don't end up very well a lot of the time. You got to be a specific type of person. Well, because you can an intelligent person for one, somebody who can't be easily manipulated, somebody who doesn't get delusions of grandeur, because a lot of the people who do start to delve into this type of stuff immediately get delusions of grandeur, which only leads to cognitive dissonance, mental illness down the line.
Oh, well, I hit all the check marks then. Oh, that's not good. I mean, during my course of studying this stuff, I ended up finding I'm descended from royalty that made America.
And that's pretty cool.
After I was inspired to hunt down the people that were trying to overthrow America.
It's ironic, but still interesting. I think it definitely takes a certain type of person, and it's somebody who's not easily impressionable, and it kind of has like a rock solid foundation. But no, it just takes somebody who has a lot of willpower and mental discipline, I think, overall.
Yeah, I agree. I'm terrible at those things. I have total lack of focus, absolutely no discipline, and I'm probably mental.
I don't believe any of that. You seem pretty put together. Well, everybody's high all the time.
No, when at the beginning I based my path of ascension, one might say, on the conceptualizations of that Hassan al-Tabai, that he maintained himself in a elevated state of consciousness for a prolonged period of time because he felt it brought him closer to divinity.
There's a different path for every single person in existence. So we're coming close to running out of time, though.
All being killed off. Yeah, we're running out of time.
I definitely have to have you on again in the future because we got a lot to talk about.
All right, excellent. Well, I hope that this interview was fruitful and good for you and your audience, and that it reaches many ears. And if they want a reading list, I could send one.
Please do so.
And all right, and God bless you.
Wait! Don't go so quick,
Mr. Hacker. Oh, okay.
So, Mr. Thomas H. Birmingham, is there any place that my listeners can reach you? Do you have any social medias that you'd like to share? Anything that you'd like to share so that people can come and find you anywhere and look at your content?
Well, I purposely been putting myself out. Okay, well, since you put it like that, I'll tell you. I have a GoFundMe for sponsoring my insanity. The All-American Antichrist _8. I decided to turn. I was drunk and high and decided to make it into a wrestling character persona. And it was this. I made that also as my VK account when I went and harassed the Russian intellectuals this weekend. They thought the CIA was hacking their conference.
You troll.
Yeah, I trolled the architects of World War III.
Do you have any?
Go home.
Do you have any social media that you'd like to share?
I've been banned from pretty much everything.
Oh, okay.
Discord ogre mage hashtag what was it 0587.
All right.
Yeah. I figured since all the occult groups out there are trying to go and advocate that they want an enlightened master. My thesis at the beginning of all this was, well, these groups want the thing, go and claim to be the thing. So I just need to go and fulfill a bunch of check marks for destiny, right? Like there's a blue cloak of Muhammad over in Afghanistan that I need to go and acquire. It's like Pokemon. Convince the Russian Federation, the Russian government to go and give me the honorary title of Tsar. I don't need any money really. I'll make money off of the books and talk a lot of shit. Make a one world currency of gold backed cryptocurrency and stuff. That kind of thing. Centralized in the Cayman Islands. Third largest financial center in the world. All right. The Muslims say, I've been working on this comedic act for a while. The Muslims say that the Antichrist will come from an island in the West that is filled with spies. And I can't think of any place that more describes my current home. So if you're out there and you're a doomsday occultist and you want to bring about the end of the world and you need a Mashiach, I am available. Please, I'm accepting applications from your cults.
All right. Good to know.
So it's why not? I figure the world's gone insane, might as well. So any other questions, Tim?
No, I'm good. Definitely want to get you back on here in the future. Thomas, thanks for joining us. That's all for today's episode. Hope you enjoyed this interview with Thomas H. Birmingham. And maybe we'll see him in a future episode. I feel like going into more conspiracy theory type stuff, or like cults, straight up cults, like how I went over the Love Has One cult, would be kind of like a direction we could go, having him on as a guest periodically. Let me know what you think. Cryptic Chronicles is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Spreaker, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and basically all podcast hosts. You look for us and we're there. This episode is really long, so let's just go ahead and rush this outro. As always, I'd like to thank some current supporters. Matt Poland, Beware the Q, Johnny Wick, D.A.L. Adams, Danny Van Heck, Carnage, Jesse Leach, Austin Monday, Michael Graham, Ed Hawks, Trusty Ol' Senpai, Lex Lazarus, Brian Nolan, Jared, Matthew Lawson, Jismic, and Space Coin. Thank you so much for supporting Cryptic Chronicles, but most of all, thanks for listening. And as one of the greatest poets who ever lived once said, I became insane with long intervals of horrible sanity.